What's up, Epic Nation? This is King ES14. Now, I understand there's been a lot of confusion with what happened to the live stream. Let me explain. I overslept, and I am sorry. But I'm going to make it up to you with an episode of Super Mario Odyssey going live today. In fact, it's going to go live right after this after this recording of the in-depth look. In fact, I might have to break it up due to the Wi-Fi issue. So you'll get part one, part two of the what is it? The live stream. I mean, the supposed to be live stream, but now recorded reaction of. Sorry, I had an itch. Of the Mr. Sakurai presenting the final character, which got a name now, but I'm not going to read the name. But anyway, let's take a look at it. Sakurai, bring it on.
The time has finally come to unleash the forbidden spell of Zaharas upon our enemies!
What were you thinking, charging right into an enemy's trap? As you and I are one, I too am trapped within this void. In time, our hearts and minds will cease to be. Are you prepared to die? I thought as much. I also do not wish to die. And yet... there is no other choice. You must join Smash.
What?
Huh?
Join Smash Brothers already! What in the world are you waiting for?
You mean this dude joined Smash?
So joining Smash consumes even the darkness itself!
And yet he gets bodied.
So you return, and sooner than expected. I see. Too many swordsmen, are there? And you wield the sword as well? What will you do? Huh. So that is how you plan to win the day? So be it. I reward your cleverness this time. How is this? Ha!
Oh.
Of anyone, you should be able to handle the hero's relics. With Arid Fire, strike with superior reach. Use Amir's overwhelming power. Unleash the blinding speed of Failnaught. Along with the Sword of the Creator, each weapon matches a direction.
Ooh.
Your will and mine be now as one! To you, both sides of time are revealed! Through Smash, show the world!
So it meets Fire Emblem, Three Houses, of course. Mr. Sakurai. Sakurai!
Yes, there you have it. Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses is joining the battle. Fire Emblem Three Houses was released just last summer, so it's still very new. Even so, you'll soon be able to play as them in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This release is planned for January 28th. You'll have instant access if you have the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass, and it will also be available to purchase individually. In case you're not familiar with Fire Emblem or Three Houses, I'll explain a few things, so don't worry. First off, what is Fire Emblem? It's really hard to pronounce in Japanese. The producer said it's okay if I just say Fire Emblem. But when writing it, if you don't write Fire Emblem, the Fire Emblem police will come and get you, so please be careful. The series' first entry launched in Japan on the Famicom in 1990. You could say it was a pioneer in the genre of tactical role-playing games. You might be wondering what makes it particularly tactical. Well, it's tactical in that it simulates combat. You can think of it as moving pieces in a board game, or in other words, a game in which you advance units across a grid and battle. When we talk about tactical games of that era, there were lots of ones in which you command tanks, aircrafts, and so on. But Fire Emblem was unique because each unit was a specific character, sort of like in role-playing games. Plus, something made it stand out from other Nintendo products. Characters could permanently die. That's pretty direct language though, so perhaps we should just say they're sleeping with the fishes. But really, if a character fell in battle, you'd lose that unit. They'd be gone and you couldn't use them again.
Rip character. Forever.
Recent entries in the series maintain this concept of permadeath to some degree in classic mode and what have you. But a lot of games now allow strategic withdrawals, so to speak. In the older games, your units would really be gone, never to be mentioned again. Scary. The game's stories are told like chronicles of war, with increasingly distinct characters and engrossing scenarios. Several characters also appear in the Super Smash Bros. Series, and 6 of the 7 can use a counterattack. It's their down special. There's actually a reason for this. When I was considering how to incorporate Fire Emblem fighters into Super Smash Bros. Melee, I thought it might be interesting to reflect the turn-based nature of the original game. First comes your opponent's turn. They attack and you counter. Next comes your turn. And now, Fire Emblem Three Houses is the 17th game in the series. People who aren't Japanese in particular might be thinking, 17 games? There are that many? Well, if you include Fire Emblem Heroes in the remakes, but you don't include the Satellaview game, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, and Fire Emblem Warriors, then it comes out to 17 games. Let's try saying them in the Fire Emblem Can You Say It challenge. I'll give it a try.
暗黒竜と光の剣、外伝、紋章の謎、聖戦の系譜、トラキア776、封印の剣、烈火の剣、聖魔の功績、草原の奇跡、暁の女神、心眼黒竜、新紋章、覚醒、イフ、ヒーローズ、エコーズ、風化節律。
There you go, 17. So you saw how I was counting in a weird way, right? I was counting in binary. This is 0. Fold this here and you get 1, and then you get 2, then 2 plus 1 equals 3. So this would be 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then you get 16. Add 1 and you get 17. Awesome, isn't it? You can actually count up to 31 on one hand. And if you use both hands, you can count all the way up to 1023. If you've given up counting the knots in a tatami mat, you could always give it a go.
Try when you're bored. Yeah?
What is Fire Emblem Three Houses? In Japanese, the male version of the main character is called Bereto and the female version is called Beresu, but in English they share the same name, Byleth. Byleth becomes a professor who ends up leading one of 3 academic houses. Once you've chosen a house, you guide them through their school life and, well, you end up fighting the other houses. After a certain incident, 5 years pass, and you meet up with your grown-up students to battle against the other houses in their regions. It's a very sad game in which your former allies become enemies, turn hostile, and try to kill you. To understand the concept of Fire Emblem Three Houses, I played an early version of the game before its release. I've done the same thing before, with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, for example, because I couldn't wait until launch to experience it, or we'd have never made it in time. For that title, I borrowed an early version of the game for 2 days, ran around all the areas, saw the ending, and realized for the first time, I guess we can't really have Breath of the Wild's Princess Zelda as a fighter. I did the same this time, but with there being 3 houses and multiple endings, it was really hard to get a feel for it. And of course, there weren't any walkthroughs I could reference.
Which I am proud Sakura did that.
The game has multiple routes and the outcome of each is very different. Your experience will vary depending on the route you choose, and many of the characters you meet will adopt different roles in the story. I'll try to avoid spoilers when I'm talking about the fighter. I hope you'll understand. Before my demonstration, I should point out that when I did the Terry Bogard showcase video, I mentioned that it was recorded a month in advance. But this time, we have to account for the holidays and such, so we're filming 2 months in advance of this video's release. Right now, it's actually November. Therefore, some of what I'm about to show you might differ a bit from the finished version. As always, I'm using a special in-game camera and such for demonstration purposes. Here I go. So, this is our new fighter, Byleth. Sadly, they're lacking in mobility. It's maybe a bit better than Robin's, but that's about all you can say for them. Throws are not their strong point either. Their grab lacks range. But actually, you could say that they're distance demon. The hero's relic they use changes depending on the direction you input with the stick. Each of the hero's relics is a weapon that appears in Fire Emblem Three Houses. They look like bones, and there's a reason for that. First, let's talk about the weapon Byleth uses for upward inputs, the Sword of the Creator. The Sword of the Creator here is Byleth's default weapon. They use it for flurry attacks and tilt attacks, such as down tilt attacks, where it takes the form of a whip.
Really?
They also use the sword for dash attacks and other moves. For their up smash attack, they'll whip the sword upward to launch enemies in the air. For their up air attack, they'll wave the whip sword overhead. The hit detection for this attack lasts for a relatively long time. The up special move is really something. The sword extends like this, allowing you to do things like this.
Whoa.
It was pretty terrifying how I knocked him into the air with that attack. And in addition, you can do awful things like this. That said, you'll launch opponents upward until their damage reaches a certain percentage. Exceed that percentage and you'll need to be careful. You may find it helpful to mid-air dodge. I've already shown this, but you can also use it to latch onto edges.
Nice.
So that's the up special. Now for the sideways inputs. This is Erdvar, the same name as the weapon from Celtic mythology. First, we'll go through the forward and back air attacks. As you can see, they have a long reach. Like so. Marth's air attack keeps opponents in check too, right?
Right.
If Byleth does the same thing, you'd win out, so you should be able to beat it. Next, the side smash attack. This also has a long range. It'll connect even from here.
What the heck?
Also, if you add an upward tilt, it will be stronger. And if you've knocked an opponent down, the side attack won't hit unless you add a downward tilt to aim for them. By the way, the tip of the lance is more powerful. The shaft part is weaker, so it's not suited to close combat. It won't deal much damage, and it won't launch opponents far. That's why, as a rule, you want to hit with the blade part aimed upward, or downward in this case. Next, the side special move. Byleth will simply swing the lance like this, but again, it has excellent reach. For example, even when your opponent is at this distance, it'll still hit.
Ooh.
Actually, you can do a smash attack to charge forward a little, like this. But as you'd expect, it can be easily shielded, so be careful.
Right.
Use it in midair and you'll carve up a large area. Returning to the side air attacks from earlier, they have great horizontal reach, but they lack verticality. So this complements it well, although you'll be vulnerable when you land. Now, for the downward inputs. For these, Byleth will use an axe called Emir. It's named after a weapon that appears in Ugaritic myth. First, the down air attack. It really is strong. You can try for a meteor effect with this attack. Next is the down smash attack. A heavy swing of the axe back and forth. As you can see, it has a great deal of launch power. And for the down special, Byleth channels all their energy into a devastating strike. It's a bold move, similar to the Falcon Punch, but here's what makes it different. When readying the move, there's a super armor effect, which allows you to withstand an attack. Just so you know, if you execute a Falcon Punch at about the same time, it plays out like this.
Wow.
It's a bit slower than the Falcon Punch, but due to the super armor effect, you have the advantage. Unless you get grabbed. Another notable aspect is that it lets you pass through platforms. While you're charging up, you can breeze past platforms like this to reach a lower area. It won't let you jump, but you could use it as a surprise attack. Also, you can turn around during the move. The swing takes a while, so if an opponent runs behind you during the move, you can quickly change direction. Even though it can be hard to land a hit with this move, it can be really effective when used against a group of opponents.
Yeah, especially against the big boy, Donkey Kong.
Plus, even if you fail to land a direct hit, any opponents on the ground nearby will still be launched a little. It's as if the quaking of the ground launches them. By the way, earlier I talked a little bit about the other Fire Emblem characters' moves. I don't recommend using this down special against fighters from the Fire Emblem series, because you'll just get loads of counters. It hits with that much power in a single attack. Counters can actually multiply the power of blocked attacks, and using easily anticipated attacks like this could just get you hit by counter after counter. Next, we have the neutral moves. The bow you use is called Failnaught, which shares its name with the bow from the Knights of the Round Table. It only appears in a few neutral moves. You've got the neutral air attack. This attack is similar to a move of Pit's and other fighters like him. It lets you spin the weapon around. It's also easy to create certain combos with it. And with the neutral special, you'll let loose an arrow. It seems pretty straightforward, right? But there are a few noteworthy aspects to this bow. First, the biggest difference between this bow and Link's is that once you enter the command, you can keep charging until it's ready. You can't release it partway through the charge, so when it does fire, the arrow travels at high speed,